This is Nightline and I'm Liyana Hassanel. The headlines. Government to implement move to freeze account of alimony defaulters by 2022. And Anthony Loke elected new DAP Secretary General. Kit Siang calls it a day. We begin with this story. The Prime Minister said that there is a political stability in the country at present and is confident that more foreign investments will flow into Malaysia. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said that since taking over the government's administration, the opposition and the government could, for the first time in the country's history, sit down together to discuss national issues. He said that following the Memorandum of Understanding signed by the government and the opposition is not too emotional despite having differing views and continues to support the government in parliamentary sittings. He said this when meeting members of Keluarga Malaysia in Hanoi on Sunday evening in conjunction with his two-day official visit to Vietnam that began on the same day. During his visit, he is scheduled to hold engagement sessions with several Vietnamese companies that have interests and intend to expand their businesses in Malaysia. On the second day, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri will be accorded an official welcome at the Presidential Palace to witness the exchange of documents, including a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, on legal cooperation activities, as well as the recruitment, employment and repatriation of workers. He was also scheduled to hold separate meetings with Vietnam President Nguyen Xuan Phu, Vietnam Communist Party Secretary General Nguyen Phu Trong, and National Assembly Chairman Vuong Zinh Hui. Our headlining story. The Women, Family and Community Development Ministry will discuss with the relevant ministries and agencies to implement the proposal to freeze the bank accounts of alimony defaulters by this year. Its Minister, Datuk Seri Rina Mohamad Harun, who welcomed the move, said based on information received, many ex-husbands failed to provide alimony to their ex-wives.
Jadi kita sebagai Kementerian Pembangunan Wanita, Keluarga dan Masyarakat boleh membantu untuk menelaraskan, untuk menyampaikan supaya mereka yang menjadi mangsa ataupun mereka yang sepatutnya mendapat hak mereka akan diberikan keadilan yang sewajarnya.
She said this to reporters after the launching of the new image of the Pusrawi Maternity Hospital and Polyclinic in Kota Damansara on Sunday. On Saturday, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob announced that the bank accounts of men would be frozen if they violated the court order to provide alimony or maintenance to their ex-wives. He said this was among the matters decided upon by the government in protecting women, including the court cases won by women in claiming alimony. Veteran DAP politician Lim Kit Siang has announced his retirement from politics. The 81-year-old Iskandar Putri MP told delegates at the DAP's 17th Annual Congress on Sunday that he will not be contesting any position, whether for the party's Central Executive Committee, CEC, or in future parliamentary or state elections.
Saya menarik diri dari bertanding pilihan jawatankuasa tertinggi pusat. Saya juga tidak akan bertanding dalam pilihan raya, parlimen atau negeri di masa depan.
Kit Siang, who has been with the party for 56 years, marked that the DAP commemorated its 56th anniversary 2 days ago. He said he was glad to see the party develop from a small opposition party, which fought the first general election in 1969. DAP then grew into a major political party in the Pakatan Harapan coalition, which won the 14th general election in 2018 and formed the government in 7 states. He also stressed that the Johor state election should be an important reminder that the dream of Malaysia as a united, democratic, just and successful nation respected by the international community is a long-term political struggle. Meanwhile, Anthony Loke Siu Phuc has been elected DAP's new Secretary General, drawing the curtains on Lim Guan Eng's 18 years at the post. Guan Eng, who turned 61 in December, has reached the 3-term limit and was voted the party's chairman at Sunday's Congress. Party stalwart Lim Kit Siang was named the party's mentor. Kit Siang and his son Guan Eng have held the Secretary General's post for a total of 48 years between them. Political parties should forget about the general election for the time being and concentrate on the people's needs first. Senior Works Minister Datuk Sri Fadilah Yusof said regardless of which political party they belong to, politicians should put the people's and the country's needs before their personal interests, including focusing on health issues as well as steps and strategies needed to improve the country's economy.
Lupakan hal PRU dulu, fokuskan pada ini dulu sehingga kita mengukuhkan kedudukan negara kita, rakyat berada dalam keadaan lebih baik, krisis kesihatan ni dapat dijaga, barulah kita lihat pada election ataupun tidak. Tapi apapun itu adalah budi bicara dan bidang kuasa yang amat berhormat Perdana Menteri dan juga ke bawah duli yang maha mulia Tuanku Agong kita.
He said this during a media conference after an event to mark the completion of the Titi Kerawang Bridge and Road project in Balik Pulau, Pulau Pinang on Sunday. Datuk Sri Fadilah added that once the economy improves further, then the country will have the resources to look after the welfare of the people. In any event, he said Malaysia was a democratic country and a process was in place, adding that the Prime Minister would need to refer to the Cabinet and then speak to the Yang di-Pertuan Agong before deciding on a general election. The 15th general election must be held by July next year, but there has been talk that it may be held earlier. The detailed mechanism and implementation of the minimum wage of 1,500 ringgit per month will be announced soon. In welcoming the announcement made by Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob on Saturday, Human Resources Minister Datuk Sri M. Saravanan said the move was in line with the decision taken in a cabinet meeting on March 11th. In a statement on Sunday, Datuk Sri Saravanan said the announcement was clearly in line with the government's commitment to increase wages and workers' well-being. On Saturday, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri announced the implementation of the minimum wage policy for certain companies starting May 1st. The implementation would first involve large and government-linked companies, GLCs. Datuk Sri Saravanan said that the move is expected to make a positive contribution to stimulate the country's economy through the increased purchasing power of workers. Some 8.6 million individuals will receive the Bantuan Keluarga Malaysia BKM Phase 1 financial aid, which will be disbursed between March 28th and April 8th. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said they would receive between 100 ringgit and 300 ringgit each, depending on their eligibility. The recipients, he said, will comprise 4 million households, 1.2 million senior citizens who are single or without a spouse, and 3.4 million other single individuals. Each recipient will receive payment in stages from March 28th with a total allocation of 2 billion ringgit. In a statement, the Prime Minister said payment aid for households, senior citizens and single individuals would be credited to their bank accounts. Meanwhile, cash aids for individuals without bank accounts would be made from March 30th through Bank Simpanan Nasional. He said any appeals could be submitted within a month from May 2nd, ensuring those eligible from the targeted groups would benefit from the BKM program. The Prime Minister added that the government is always alert to the current needs and will remain committed to ensuring the well-being of the Malaysian family, especially the target groups. While economists globally are still recovering from the effects of COVID-19 disease, analysts are expecting the escalating Russia-Ukraine conflict to have an impact on the prices of fast-moving consumer goods, as much as 10% higher due to soaring commodity prices. Some economists say that the situation is only temporary and that the current fuel subsidies be kept intact. Oil has been on an upward trend for more than a year, with a recent sharp acceleration. It rose sharply over $100 a barrel, and now it stood above $105.
Now, Malaysia actually benefits from higher oil prices. Government revenue goes up and GDP goes up. But of course, because we have fuel subsidies here in Malaysia, the increase in government revenue tends to be used for the fuel subsidies. And so we don't always see much of a benefit to that in terms of the net gain. However, on the other hand, it means that we don't see much of a downside either. So the impact is actually quite muted here in Malaysia. For other parts of the region, of course, where particularly those countries that don't have the possibility of benefiting from high oil prices, then it's a much bigger impact, but not so much for us here in Malaysia because we do have that oil price windfall.
With oil prices soaring, a broad range of commodities have risen since Russia attacked Ukraine on supply worries. In Malaysia, the people are benefiting from the fuel subsidies. 11 billion ringgit was spent on fuel subsidies last year, and if oil prices remain above $100, it is likely that the government may have to fork out an additional 17 billion ringgit this year, according to the Finance Ministry.
I think we have to remember the impact of the subsidies on ordinary Malaysians and what that means to the rakyat generally. If we didn't have the subsidies, people would be paying 3 ringgit 70 for RON 95 per litre. Instead, they're paying around 2 ringgit 5 cent per litre. So the subsidies are really having a very important beneficial effect on a very large number of people.
In the case of the fuel subsidies, I think the government can actually can allow that to exist for a moment at the moment, given that the rising crude oil prices would actually translate into high income, especially in relation to petroleum-related revenue stream that could actually offset the subsidies expenditure. So I think the subsidies can be retained at the moment to allow a more sustainable recovery to take place. Certainly, we don't want to create another form of shocks to the economy because this will actually derail the trajectory of the growth momentum going forward.
Analysts predict a further rise in wheat, edible oil and crude costs. And there are some things which Malaysia can do to cushion the blow, as the effect could also include higher food prices.
For general prices, particularly I think the price of food, the government should continue with price controls until we're out of the woods. Increasing interest rates or cutting government spending would be devastating at the moment because the recovery is really very fragile. But one thing that would help businesses and would also help to keep inflation down would be to reverse the utility price increase on non-domestic users that was introduced last month. So taking this away would lower costs and would also cut inflation quite considerably.
What can be done? I think this is quite critical. On one hand, some quarters might be concerned about the subsidies bill that might go up because of the rising commodity prices. But on the other hand, we are seeing a nascent recovery stage whereby it requires strong policy support to ensure that the recovery can actually take off in a more sustainable manner.
There's also a need to keep tabs on fraudulent practices, as businesses might seek to shirk some obligations to maximize their profits in response to surging mineral and coal prices.
Those irresponsible businesses might want to take advantage of the current situations in order to record excessive profits. So monitoring, enforcing any relevant regulations and laws and regulations will be helpful to contain the inflation pressures.
Still to come, ferry sinks off Indonesian coast. Details right after this short break. We're back with news from the foreign front. In Indonesia, at least 2 people are dead and 26 others missing after a ferry carrying dozens of migrants sank off the coast of Indonesia. Officials said the wooden fishing boat was carrying 89 on board when it departed for Malaysia through an unguarded route, but it sprung a leak soon after departing before being hit by strong waves and sinking. A man and a woman were found dead, while 61 others were rescued and immediately transported to hospitals for treatment. The remaining passengers are still missing. Head of Indonesia's search and rescue team, Adi Pandawa, said the agency has deployed rescue personnel to search for the 26 missing victims, but their efforts haven't been fruitful so far. At least 6 people have been killed after a car drove into a crowd in southern Belgium. The incident happened in the small town of Strepy-Barakni, about 50 kilometers south of the capital, Brussels. The car reportedly drove at high speed into a group of around 60 people who were preparing to take part in a carnival parade on Sunday. Several people were seriously injured and some were in critical condition. The circumstances of the attack are being investigated, but police said a terror attack had been ruled out. Police also denied earlier reports in some Belgian media that the crash followed a high-speed police chase. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Sunday ordered the suspension of 11 political parties with links to Russia. Among them was the opposition Platform for Life party, which holds 44 out of 450 seats in the country's parliament.
Будь-яка активність політиків, спрямована на розкол чи на колаборацію, не матиме успіху, але отримає жорстку відповідь. І тому Рада національної безпеки та оборони України вирішила, враховуючи повномасштабну війну, розв'язану Російською Федерацією та зв'язки деяких політичних структур з цією державою, призупиняється будь-яка діяльність низки політичних партій на час воєнного стану, а саме:
The opposition Platform Party is led by Viktor Medvedchuk, who has friendly ties with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Also on the list is the Nashi Party led by Yevgeny Murayev. Before the Russian invasion, British authorities had warned that Russia wanted to install Murayev as the leader of Ukraine. In the meantime, Russia had struck Ukraine with cruise missiles from ships in the Black Sea and Caspian Sea and launched hypersonic missiles from Crimean airspace. According to Russian Defense Ministry spokesman Igor Konashenkov, Russia had carried out strikes against Ukraine's military infrastructure on Saturday night and Sunday morning. He said caliber cruise missiles were launched from the waters of the Black Sea against the Nizhyn plant that replaced Ukrainian armored vehicles damaged in fighting, while caliber cruise missiles were fired from the Caspian Sea and hypersonic Kinzhal or Dagger missiles from airspace of Crimea, the peninsula Russia annexed from Ukraine in 2014 to destroy a field storage facility used by the Ukrainian military. Russia also hit a Ukrainian military preparation center where foreign fighters joining Kyiv's forces were based. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has killed thousands of people, displaced more than 3 million, and raised fears of a wider confrontation between Russia and the United States, the world's 2 biggest nuclear powers. Oliveira holds off world champion to win in Mandalika. Actions from the MotoGP when we come back. sports, MotoGP, the Indonesia Grand Prix. KTM rider Miguel Oliveira put on a wet weather masterclass and held off reigning world champion Fabio Quartararo in an intense battle to claim the checkered flag on Sunday. Oliveira made a strong start and moved from 7th to 2nd, passing early leaders Quartararo and Jack Miller before building what proved to be an unassailable lead. He finished ahead of Yamaha's Quartararo, who started from pole, while Pramac Ducati's Johan Zarco came 3rd in the rain-delayed second race of the season. The race was reduced to 20 laps from 27 due to safety concerns caused by extreme track temperatures, before the start was delayed repeatedly because of torrential rain. Earlier, 6-time MotoGP champion Marc Marquez missed the race, Indonesia's first Grand Prix since 1997, after suffering a concussion following a crash in the warm-up session. The 8-time world champion visited a local hospital for further checks after a nasty high side towards the end of the 20-minute warm-up session. Turning to tennis, the BNP Paribas Open. Rafael Nadal proved he is still the best Spanish tennis player as he outclassed compatriot Carlos Alcaraz to book a place in the final. Nadal looked set for an easy victory as he took the first set 6-4. Alcaraz, however, bounced back to claim the second set 6-4, bringing the clash into a decider. After a grueling 3 hours and 12 minutes in heavy winds, 3-time BNP Paribas Open champion Nadal finally wrapped up the semi-final clash with a 6-3 victory. The legendary lefty will face American Taylor Fritz for the trophy. After the short break, two faced the gallows over drugs distributing charges. Stay with us. Nightline continues. In Johor, a civil servant and a fisherman have been charged with distributing drugs at a beach in Iskandar Putri earlier this month. No plea was recorded from 34-year-old Ahmad Fadil Ghazali and 29-year-old Muhammad Firdaus Ishak after the charges were read to them before Magistrate Arsalini at the Johor Bahru Magistrates Court on Sunday. According to the charge sheet, the duo are accused of distributing 5.3 kilograms of shabu at a beach in Forest City on March 6th. The act, an offence under the Dangerous Drugs Act, carries a death sentence or life imprisonment with the possibility of at least 15 strokes of the cane upon conviction. The case was set for mention on May 22nd, pending a chemical report. Police are looking for the driver of a four-wheel drive who was seen driving dangerously and almost causing an accident at kilometer 138.7 of the North-South Expressway. Seberang Perai Tengah District Police Chief ACP Shafi Abdul Samad said the driver's reckless behaviour was captured in a video that has gone viral and shared on social media. ACP Shafi said police had earlier detected the video, which was uploaded to Facebook on Saturday. In the video, the driver was seen aggressively trying to squeeze through traffic, almost causing an accident. Following the incident, police had opened an investigation paper under Section 42 of the Road Transport Act. ACP Shafi also urged motorists who witnessed the incident to come forward to help in the investigation. In Sarawak, a victim was seriously injured after a crane fell at a construction site near the jetty in Pekat Kapit on Sunday. The State Fire and Rescue Department spokesperson said the incident was believed to occur at around 8 a.m. The spokesperson explained that the victim was found trapped under the rubble of a crane pool, which was successfully removed by the public before being sent to Kapit Hospital. However, the health status and injuries suffered by the victim could not be ascertained. The incident, which also attracted the public attention around the jetty, had also spread on social media. Social media user E11, who was at the scene, managed to record the public's effort to pull the victim from under the fallen crane. The cause of the incident is still under investigation. A former Rolls-Royce engineer may have found the perfect solution to the housing crisis: conkers. According to Jack Verdi, the spherical pots can be installed in just one day. Several of them can be fitted together to create space for a double bed, a kitchenette, and even ensuite bathroom with a toilet and shower. Visuals of the futuristic pot wrap up Nightline this time around. I'm Liyana Hassanel. Thank you for joining me and take care, Malaysia.